Tristan da Cunha, or just Tristan for short, is a very remote group of volcanic islands in the South Atlantic Ocean. It is here that we begin our latest series, all about the world's islands. This series will take us to some of the most isolated and stunning places on Earth. And if you love anything to do with islands or geography in general, then this series is for you. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. So let's start by getting the basics out of the way. Tristan da Cunha is not actually an island, but rather a group of 4 islands. Together, they form a single administrative district which shares the same name as the largest of the islands, Tristan da Cunha. The other 3 islands are named Inaccessible Island, Nightingale Island, and the aptly named Small and Remote Island. These 4 islands are located around 2,400 kilometers from the coast of South Africa and roughly 3,700 kilometers from the coast of Brazil. They are currently a part of the British Overseas Territory of St. Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha. However, each of the 3 constituent parts of this overseas territory have their own constitution, and so Tristan da Cunha effectively governs itself independently. The population of Tristan da Cunha is tiny, numbering just 241 people in 2021, making it the least populated territory in the world. I say territory, but even that is up for debate, because only around 50 people actually live on the main island of Tristan da Cunha, with the remaining 190 or so living on the neighboring island of St. Helena. Ascension Island is completely uninhabited. But more on that in a later episode. So how did these remote volcanic islands end up being a part of the British Empire? Well, like many far-flung places across the globe, the story begins with the Portuguese. In 1506, the Portuguese explorer Tristan da Cunha discovered the islands and subsequently named them after himself. At this point, they were uninhabited, but the Portuguese would go on to establish a whaling station there in the 17th century. In 1816, the British captured the island from the Portuguese, and then, in 1822, Britain officially annexed the island via the Treaty of Rio de Janeiro, and it has remained a part of the British Empire ever since. Today, Tristan da Cunha is what is known as a dependency. In simple terms, this means that while it does technically govern itself, it relies on the United Kingdom to handle its foreign affairs, defence, and justice. Every 3 years, a commissioner from the Foreign Office in London visits the island to ensure that everything is running smoothly. But otherwise, the islands are largely self-governing. The local government consists of an 8-member council known as the Island Council, which is elected by the people of Tristan da Cunha. They are responsible for matters relating to police, prisons, fire services, education, and healthcare, which are provided free of charge to all residents. There is also a court on the island to deal with minor legal issues, but for anything more serious, suspects can be sent to St. Helena or, in more extreme circumstances, to the UK mainland. The official language of Tristan da Cunha is English, although Portuguese is also widely spoken. And despite being a British overseas territory, the currency used is the South African rand, and it is also aligned with South Africa when it comes to broadcasting. South African radio stations can be picked up on the islands, and television is relayed via satellite from South Africa, although apparently the signal isn't great. If you want to access the internet, well, unfortunately you're out of luck, as there are no internet services available on Tristan da Cunha. However, all is not lost, as there is a public library on the island. So now that we've got the history and the politics out of the way, let's talk about geography. As I mentioned earlier, Tristan da Cunha is actually a collective name given to a group of 4 volcanic islands. Each of the islands is the peak of a volcano, and they are the remnants of a much larger landmass that existed millions of years ago. Over time, erosion has worn away most of the rock, leaving only these 4 peaks above the water. The largest of these is, of course, Tristan da Cunha, which covers an area of 96.4 square kilometers. Its highest point is a dormant volcano known as Queen Mary's Peak, which reaches a height of 1,736 feet, or 529 meters. To the south of Tristan da Cunha is the second largest island, Inaccessible Island, which, as its name suggests, is pretty much what it sounds like. It is almost entirely made up of sheer cliffs, which plunge vertically into the sea below. Because of this, Inaccessible Island is the most dangerous of the 4 islands, as ships attempting to get too close risk being dashed upon the rocks below. Surrounding Inaccessible Island is a chain of smaller islets and rocks, known as the Sisters. Further to the east, we find the third island, Nightingale Island, which covers an area of 15.3 square kilometers. Much like the rest of the islands, the interior of Nightingale Island is dominated by a central mountain. Here it is known as Mount Julia. Again, this is another dormant volcano, reaching a height of 1,345 feet, or 410 meters. The final island is the smallest, and is simply called Small and Remote Island. With an area of just 0.7 square kilometers. It is just a tiny islet located southeast of Tristan da Cunha. The waters surrounding the islands are home to a wide variety of marine life, including dolphins, whales, and seals. The climate of Tristan da Cunha is quite unique, being so far south and also being surrounded by cold ocean currents. You might expect it to be quite chilly. However, thanks to the Gulf Stream, temperatures are actually quite mild, ranging from 13 degrees Celsius to 19 degrees Celsius on average. The islands receive regular rainfall, which helps to support the lush vegetation. Despite its remote location, Tristan da Cunha does host a number of endemic species, including 2 species of skink, a subspecies of Cape pigeon, and several plant species. So now we know a bit about the geography and biodiversity of the islands. Let's take a look at the human geography. As I mentioned earlier, the population of Tristan da Cunha is just 241 people, making it the least populated territory in the world. It is also one of the most remote, with the nearest neighbors being St. Helena, which is 1,800 kilometers away, and the nearest mainland being South Africa, which is over 2,000 kilometers away. The population is mainly made up of people of European descent who are mostly employed in fishing or agriculture. Slavery was officially abolished in 1834, but the last slaves were not freed until 1866. Today, there are no racial or religious minorities on the island, and everyone follows Christianity. The life expectancy for men is 74 years and 79 years for women, and the official language is English, although Portuguese is also widely spoken. Tristan da Cunha is perhaps best known for having the world's most remote post office. The postal service was established in 1849, and today the post office handles around 50 letters per year. The letters are transported to and from the island by ship, which takes around 3 weeks each way. Despite its remoteness, the people of Tristan da Cunha are surprisingly well connected when it comes to communications. Mobile phone coverage is available throughout the island, and internet access can be obtained via satellite. In terms of infrastructure, the islands are fairly well developed. There is a primary school, a health clinic, a fire station, and a police station. There are also several shops, restaurants, and a pub. And in terms of transport, There is a small airstrip on the main island which can accommodate small planes from South Africa. There are also a few boats which are used to transport goods and people between the different islands. Agriculture plays an important role in the economy of Tristan da Cunha. The main exports are fish, meat, and dairy products. Fishing is also an important industry, and the waters around the island are rich in tuna, shark, and other fish. There are also a number of small farms which grow crops such as potatoes, onions, and carrots. Finally, let's take a look at urban geography. As I mentioned earlier, the population of Tristan da Cunha is just 241 people, and so there are no major cities or towns. The largest settlement on the island is known as Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. It is a small village located on the west coast of the island. The village is home to around 50 people, and it is the administrative center of the island. There are also a few smaller settlements scattered around the island, including a settlement known as Half Tree Hollow, which is home to around 20 people. And that concludes our latest episode, all about the fascinating island of Tristan da Cunha. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more, please make sure you subscribe. Until next time.